Hello and welcome to the Reinventors podcast from Live to Reinvent. Live to Reinvent provides a comprehensive online longevity, health, fitness and wellbeing training program. And in the Reinventors, we talk to people in midlife and beyond who've made those big changes. We hear about what their trigger point was. What was the thing that made them decide they had to make a change? And then we hear about the steps they took along the way. And finally, they tell us all about where they are now. I can guarantee that after hearing these stories, you'll go away with some practical steps to take for your own reinvention and start to make a change today. Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the Reinventors podcast. And I am really delighted today to be joined by Lisa Jackson, who's the author of a number of books, and her latest book is still running through all the tears. After all the tears, sorry, Lisa. Lisa's also the author of Your Pace or Mine, which is a really is it a bestseller, Lisa?
It is, yes. And it's top 50 on Amazon's Running and Jogging for 10 years now.
Yeah, a fantastic book. And many people will relate to Lisa's running style and approach, which is just to go and enjoy it and not worry about pace. And, she's a sort of poster girl for a lot of runners, I think, in her approach to running. So, Lisa, we're talking about reinvention in this podcast. And obviously, you've had a reinvention kind of forced upon you from your recent years, which is what this book is all about. But before we go on to that, if you could just sort of maybe just tell me about your running history, your 109 marathons.
Oh, how long have you got to go through 109? Yeah, thanks, Fiona. It's so lovely to see you again. Well, I hated running as a child. I come from a family of runners, but I always associated running with hot-faced humiliation. I came absolutely stone last in every single race I ever ran in as a child. Dreaded sports day. It was the worst day of the year for me. But I did know by the time I turned 30 that my life was at a crossroads. I could either continue to sit on the sofa eating Stilton from a pot with a teaspoon, feeling really quite disgusted with myself, or I could try a bit of running, which had kept my father in such good shape that he could still fit into the blazer he wore at high school. So my colleagues at Zest magazine, where I worked at the time, they said, why don't you come to Race for Life? And it was in the infancy days of Race for Life in Battersea Park. And when I attended, I just couldn't believe everyone wearing pink, my favorite color. And then number 2, people weren't racing. They were actually talking, chatting, encouraging each other. And I just remember the picture of these men with these babies. They were jiggling babies on their hips, with all guarding their wives and partners and girlfriends' luggage, and with bottles of champagne in their hands. And I just thought, this is exciting. This is nice. This is what running should be about. So I very quickly progressed from that to doing a half marathon. I did the Great North Run with my aunt. And then a few months later, I did the London Marathon. And of course, after the London Marathon, I said, like many other runners, never again. And I took almost 7 hours to do it. I thought blood should be spurting from my feet and was very disappointed to see that it wasn't, because I genuinely felt in such bad shape. And then a little while later, I thought, well, I walked half of the London Marathon. And so I really still haven't run a marathon. So I need to do one more. So I entered Edinburgh, and there I ran all the way. I ran every single step, but for about half of it, I was just in so much pain. I was actually groaning. I was going, like this. And then I hitched up with 2 gentlemen, and they said, come on, Fairy, we'll get you to the finish. And they rescued me, and they chatted to me, and we had a laugh, and I finished. And I finished 10 minutes faster. Oh, sorry. And I did finish quite a substantial amount. It was more than 10 minutes, about an hour and a half faster than my first one. And then I entered Paris, because I just thought, well, my marathon days should come to an end, but Paris, who doesn't want to run in Paris? But I got injured, and the night before the race, I was lying on the bed in the hotel, and my husband said, you've got your stress face on, Lisa. And I said, yeah, because I don't think I'm going to finish tomorrow. And I was reading the Marathon magazine, and in it, a very well-known, Olympian wrote, if you're scared of not finishing your marathon, try walk running. And I had done some walk running when I first started running. So I thought, okay, well, I'll give it a go. My aunt wasn't keen on doing that. She said, no way am I walking, after 10 minutes. Like, that is not how I came to run this marathon. So off she went. I stuck to my walk running very religiously. And in the end, I came up to my aunt at about 32K and she was walking. And I said, hey, look, I'm back. Like, come with me. Let's go to the finish. And she said, I can't run another step. And I was going, I've got plenty of running left in me. So she said, borrow the friend she was with because she was really entertaining and let her take you to the finish. So this woman who'd run 50 marathons, she just chatted and she told me so many interesting stories that I ran my fastest 10K, I think, in my life, just trying to keep up with her. And I could run the whole last 10K. I ran. And I took 10 minutes off the time that I'd run all the way. And my recovery time, rather than 3 weeks, was 3 days. And I just thought, this is the big secret. So I ended up writing with a colleague of mine at Zest a book called Running Made Easy, which was the precursor to the Couch to 5K app, where you walked for 2 minutes and ran for a minute. Yeah. And that became a really big bestseller. That sold over 120,000 copies. So that sort of established me as a running writer, even though I have no sports science background and I'm really, really slow. And then as life went on, I love round numbers, so 5 marathons, 10 marathons. And then in Marathon 17, I met a man in the Brighton Marathon wearing a 100 Marathon Club t-shirt. And when I said I wanted one of those, he said, yeah, you can have one. And I was like, have you looked at me? Like, I don't look like a runner. I don't run like a runner. And he was just, yeah, we've all been there once. And that was the permission slip I needed to say, right, I'm joining this club. Mm-hmm. So first of all, I was just going to carry on running the way I had, doing a couple of marathons a year. And then I realized, I'd be 93 by the time I got into the club. Yeah. So I realized, I wanted to be running in my 100 Marathon Club t-shirt, this beautiful blue and yellow t-shirt with a laurel wreath on it, not cremated in it. So I had to revise my entire marathon running program and started doing a lot more marathons. And I set myself little challenges. Like in 2012, I did 12 marathons. In 2013, I did 13. And then in 2015, I did 28 marathons.
Wow.
Which I still can't actually believe I did. I somehow managed to hold down a job and a marriage and do that. Yeah. And in the following year, I launched my book, Your Pace or Mine, at my 100th marathon. So yeah.
Just going back on your timeline there. So the first marathon was 1999. Am I right?
No. That's correct. Yeah.
So you're quite an early adopter, really, because the Race for Life was kind of, in terms of the popular running that you kind of went on to represent, and prior to Couch to 5K, that was early, really, for people who were more recreational, shall we say.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know. If I wasn't working in a health magazine, I would never have heard of Race for Life, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, and I was really excited by it. I entered it for many years. I entered it every single year after that.
I mean, I remember doing it as well. And for those who probably don't remember it now, it's kind of like pre-park run. It was women only, lots of pink, as you said, lots of fun. I kind of think it kick-started the whole movement to kind of enjoying running and not just being competitive and performance focused.
Absolutely. It was a groundbreaking movement. I mean, it's still going now.
Yeah.
But now, you can do, the problem with it was that it only was held once a year. So women would train up for it and then their running would fall off a cliff afterwards. Yeah. So that's the great thing about parkrun. If you train up to do a 5K, you can keep going back all year doing it for free.
Yeah, absolutely. And from what you've said, your family were runners anyway. Yeah. Your mum and dad were runners. So you kind of, this is about reinvention. You kind of reinvented running at 30 in your version of running, didn't you?
Yeah.
If that was your identity was established then, when you started to run and have some fun and talk to people. And it's Jeff, what's his surname? I've forgotten his surname.
Galloway.
Yeah, Jeff Galloway, the approach, the walk, run approach, which is really, really a good way to run a marathon. And as you said, you ran faster. So if anyone's listening and kind of thinking about, I wonder if I could do it, that is still a very valid approach to completing a marathon, your first marathon. It's to walk, run it. So, okay, so you wrote those books, and sorry to forget your first book, which was obviously a massively important book for a lot of people. But now, where we are now, it's you've written this really touching, amazing book about your own experience. So perhaps you can just, in your own words, just tell us the story behind the book and what's happened to you in the last, what is it, 8 years, 5
8 years.
8 years.
It is 8 years.
Yeah.
So my book, Still Running After All These Tears, opens with my 100th marathon, because there's a cliffhanger at the end of Your Pace or Mine. Will she, won't she get into the 100 Marathon Club? So I wanted to reassure my readers, yeah, I did get in.
Yeah.
And I did a marathon the very next day in London. Or actually, was it Brighton? I can't remember now, but I did a back-to-back marathon for the first time. So I thought I'd continue with my marathon running, but not at the same frequency. And someone, asked me, are you going to continue doing loads and loads of marathons? I said, no, I want to remain married, because it can become an obsession. And because my husband, he ran 30 marathons with me and 2 ultra marathons, but he said it was all against his will. So he actually hated running, and absolutely hated it. And, he just said, I'm not coming along. I'm not dragged along anymore. I'm not going to be your baggage boy. And I'm not running any more marathons. He was kind of just fed up with the whole thing. So very shortly afterwards, actually only about a year later, my husband was out running. He'd gone for a run, and he came home and he said, I just don't know what's wrong. I can't run. And I said, my darling, it's because you haven't been running for months. And you always run too fast when you start out. I just don't know why you don't ease into it like I do. He said, no, you don't understand. I can't run to the end of the road. And that was just like, what? And I said, no, go to the doctor. And he was amazing. I mean, I must say, there's the one thing about my husband. He went, he didn't put his head in the sand at all. So he went and eventually was diagnosed with mesothelioma, which is asbestos-related lung cancer, which results from exposure to asbestos, in his case, at work.
Yeah.
So it was an absolute hammer blow to our lives. He was given a life expectancy of between 18 months and 5 years. We were incredibly happily married. I'd been with him. I'd met him when I was 18, married him when I was 23. So, we were married. In the end, we ended up being married for 30 years.
Yeah.
So this was my greatest fear in life coming true. My husband had supported all my marathon running, maybe sometimes reluctantly, but he still did it. And all my book writing as well, which meant he had to do all the housework, cooking, cleaning, ironing, you name it. He did all of that so I could write, because I was working full time at the time I was writing my books. So it was a new journey for me to be the strong one in our relationship, because he was always the support to me. And now I had to be the one who had to support him.
Right.
And I started reading, enormous number of cancer books, mindset books, used my experience as a clinical hypnotherapist and a hypnobirthing teacher, gathered all the information to help Graham, because I knew that if we didn't get our mindset right, however long he had to live, he might as well have died on the spot, because it would just be hell. It would be living on death row. We'd be living under the shadow of a death sentence, and there'd be no point in living. Our lives would just be full of fear. So we took the decision jointly to live in hope, not fear. We decided that we were going to squeeze every last drop of juice out of life, no matter how long he had left. So I amassed all this amazing information, but sadly, one of the things that was a casualty during this time was I didn't have the fight in me to run. So I find running extremely difficult. It's just an enormous challenge. I can honestly say,
It's difficult, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably 20 runs in my life I've actually looked forward to, but once I'm doing it, I'm usually get into it and I really enjoy it, or at least at the end, I always love it. But I just had to fight so many battles on Graham's behalf with medics. I mean, I kind of joked with someone once, I fired 4 hospitals in London. I was running out of cancer hospitals to go to because we just had very, very numerous medical experiences with medical people that were very, very upsetting and damaging and unprofessional. And I just didn't have the fight in me to run as well. So, of course, I did carry on running because I'm a columnist on Runner's World, but not nearly as much as I should have. And instead, I sort of turned to things like red wine and chocolate Easter eggs from South Africa. And then, sadly, my husband died. And very shortly after that, my father developed dementia. And when I went out to South Africa to look after him, my sister died while I was there. And then my dad died too. So I had 3 bereavements in a period of 17 months. And while Graham was ill, I'd had a voice that just said to me really loudly, I don't know where it came from, running will be your salvation. And I just needed something to cling to. I wasn't a wife anymore. I wasn't a daughter anymore. I wasn't a sister to my sister anymore. But the one thing that sort of stayed constant in my life was the fact I'm a runner. And I've had long periods of not running, like due to injury, due to laziness, due to all kinds of things. But I knew that whenever I came back to running, it would be there for me. And so when I moved to Worthing from Croydon 3 months after my husband died. I started trying to run every day, but I don't know if it was the COVID booster shots or COVID itself, but I got to a point where I couldn't run between two lampposts. Now, I've never been in that unfit in my life. I mean, this was just ridiculous. It was so terrifying. And I was doing yoga at the time, and I bent over to try and touch my toes because I was working on my flexibility as well. And I couldn't get up again. I was just bent over like a boomerang.
Oh, God.
Thank goodness, I know. And I was in agony, utter agony. So I caught a taxi to the physio. Thank goodness I had an appointment booked already.
Yeah.
And I couldn't straighten up. I mean, I just had to sit, with my head on my lap all the way to the physio. And she worked on me magic, this woman. She was just amazing. But she said to me, Lisa, I'm very sorry to have to tell you, you can't run anymore. Not forever, but you can't run now. You cannot run the 2 marathons you want to run in your husband's honor. So then I had a big, long gap in running. And then when I came back to it, I just realized I had to reassess where I was at. I was no longer capable of running 56 miles like I did when I did the Comrades. So I wasn't able to do a marathon every weekend, every second weekend as I'd done before. And so I started with just 1 mile. And that was successful. And then I built up to a park run, and then I built up to a half marathon. And then the triumph of the book is the marathon I did this year in Brighton, which I did in Graham's honor, carrying a little pouch of his ashes with me, which I scattered in the ocean. So the book is actually, it's got 2 strands to it. The one is how to regain your running mojo if you lose it. It's a surprisingly common thing among runners. I mean, I've never read anything about it, but you talk to people in a 100 Marathon Club, and all of them virtually will tell you a story of when they lost their mojo, maybe sometimes numerous times. My Comrades mentor, Nikki Campbell, because of COVID, and she wasn't doing Comrades every year, she lost it majorly. She asked me if we could walk during a run. I was like, Nikki, you can't. No one has ever asked me to walk. I'm always the one doing the asking. So I realized that was going to strike a chord with a lot of runners. And also all the knowledge that I gained, the mindset stuff, just practical health tips, etc., on going through bereavement and going through a cancer journey. I just didn't want that information to go to waste because it was so hard won. So the book has got a lot of that information in it. But it's also funny, the book, I didn't want it to be one long misery fest or one big lecture on how to get through life. I want it to be that you could actually feel the joy of what running brought to me, feel the love I felt for my father, my sister, my husband, and also share some of the funny and humorous things, because you need to know in a cancer journey, it's not, all bleak. There's so many funny things that happen. So that's what I wanted to share with people in my book.
Well, you certainly have. I mean, I've from what I've read in the book, I can hear your voice loud and clear, and I can hear this resilience and this amazing approach to living, because that's what you've done. Like you said, you and your husband decided it was about mindset and about making sure that you squeeze the juice out of life. And I'm not surprised you lost your running mojo. You must have had to put so much energy into that. So your husband was diagnosed. When was this? What year? And when did he actually? How long did it take for him to? How long was the illness?
So he was diagnosed in October 2017. He died on the 1st of September 2021. So we had almost 4 years.
And
unfortunately, it went to his brain, and that only happens in 3% of mesothelioma cases. And so I didn't worry about it. And that's another thing I say in my book is deal with facts. We did not know for sure that he had brain tumors. So we had 4 years of not worrying about that. And then when it happened, you deal with it. There's nothing, but I always say to people, you can increase your suffering so much by dreading things that may never happen. So that's another tip.
Well, and also you're clinical hypnotherapist, you were saying. So when did you train to do that? So, I mean, that must have helped you in this whole process.
Oh, it was invaluable. That was 2007. So I've been one for almost 20 years. And the techniques that I learned there, and also in hypnobirthing, because birth is very similar to death. And there's recognizable stages, and it can be a very peaceful process, but it can also be one filled with panic. So that's why I campaign so much now for the assisted dying bill. Work with dignity in dying, because I didn't have an interest in the subject of dying. I had a great interest in the subject of living before my husband's experience. And then witnessing an agonizing death firsthand and standing there helplessly thinking he's been pumped full of morphine, he's had fentanyl, and he's still begging to die. And my husband worked full time until a month before his death. So Dignitas, wasn't really an option for us because it was so far down the line, at which point he wanted the suffering to end. So we wouldn't have been able to fly to Switzerland anyway. And it's things like that. It's like, just having a spare £15,000 lying in your bank account to go and do that as well. So the more I've learned about the subject, I've just realized that we just need a choice about how to end our lives in a dignified, peaceful way. And my husband, it would have been maybe a week or two before he died. We would have, if we had assisted dying option, that's when we would have chosen to use it. Because by that point, he wasn't going to get better and his suffering wasn't serving any purpose. And in fact, in the end, I had to step in and actually beg him to die. I had to say, my love, you have fought as hard as you can to stay on this earth for as long as you can, because he felt really guilty about leaving me. It was one of the things he wrote in our positivity book to me, how guilty he felt because he looked after me so much in life, from when I was at age, I met him when I was 18. So my whole life he looked after me. And he said, I feel so guilty. And I had to say to him, listen, you have now done your duty. You've stayed as long as you can. But now it's time for you to go, because seeing your suffering is more painful for me than losing you.
And how old was he when he died?
58. My age now.
Yeah, my age now. God, that's, and it's, well, we both believe we're very young. I'm sure you do too, as I do. It's a powerful story. I know you're 17 months was the period of time with your sister and your father with dementia, and your sister's was quite a traumatic death as well, wasn't it? So you've been through the mill, like massively. I just wonder, you talked about you've not been able to run, your injury and burnout, and you're kind of mourning that woman who would be able to manage this kind of trauma with running. So how did you get from, we will talk in more detail about what happened as well, but how did you get from injury, burnout, back to running? How did you find your way back? What were the simple steps you took in order to get moving again?
I just had to, the first thing was acceptance, actually, the way the Buddhists talk about acceptance, the importance of acceptance. It's just realizing that, before I was the kind of person, I couldn't be bothered to, because I'm very kind of conscious of my time. So I couldn't be bothered to get all dressed up to go running if I wasn't going to do at least a 5K, because that was kind of my minimum distance. If I'm going to bother, I might as well do 5K. And then just having to accept I'm no longer capable of doing 5K. I'm just actually not. And in fact, I wish I'd remembered walk running, but that didn't really come into my consciousness until I did my first half marathon after a 4-year break. And a woman at the start line said, I'm going to walk run the whole way. And I said to her, oh my God, I've just remembered that. I've written a book about this. Why don't we do it together? We did one lamppost running, one lamppost walk. It was one of the best half marathons I've ever done in my life. I'm still friends with that woman now. I actually literally danced across the finish line. I was so overjoyed. It was just the most fantastic experience. So I had to accept my limitations. I had to accept where I was starting from, and I started with just 1 mile. Instead of comparing myself to other people, and obviously people who are 56 or whatever at the time that it was, can run more than a mile. But I just had to say, you can't compare yourself to anyone else, and you can't even compare yourself to you, because you're no longer that person. But start with something small. So Atomic Habits, the book that Eliud Kipchoge also loves, that advised me, and it said, start out by just tying your trainers every day. I was thinking, no, I already passed that stage because I wear trainers every single day of my life. So I had to move a bit more than that. So I said a mile. And then the next step was a 5K park run. The next step was this half marathon that I did in the New Forest, which was just extraordinary, among 1,000-year-old trees. It just put stuff in perspective, and just being out in nature. I just forgot how much I loved and missed trail running, which is just one of my passions. And then I felt the courage. It's kind of, I had to reinvent myself as a runner again, and I've been as a marathon runner. And I thought, okay, I'll do Brighton in Graham's honor. I was going to carry a little pouch of his ashes with me, and put them in the ocean afterwards. And I just thought this might be my last marathon. I gave myself that opt out. I said, okay, it's a bit of a non-round number. It's a 109, my 109th. But if this just isn't your thing anymore, it's fine to just go and do half marathons, because I want to get to 100 halves. I'm sort of at 47 at the moment.
Yeah.
And I did it. And of course, it was agony and it was ecstasy. And I met so many people I knew from before, from the 100 Marathon Club and other people. I made new friends. And then afterwards, I mean, it didn't take me a day before it was like, oh, okay, early bird entry. I'm going to be doing Brighton next year.
Was
So I think I'm back to the old Lisa from a long time ago, from 20 years ago, where I did 1 or 2 marathons a year. And
Yeah.
that's fine. But the half marathons now, I just realized, I almost say like it's half the distance and double the fun. So you get all the benefits. I'm still challenging myself. Don't think I think halves are easy.
Yeah, no, I agree. A half marathon is much my preference as well.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so you kind of the reinvention side of things. I mean, this is what we focus on. But you know, your identity was all around running. It's you're a columnist, you're an author, you've done 100 plus marathons, and then you go through all that trauma. And what we find is that at this kind of 50 plus age, you kind of can be a bit worn out from it all and just think, oh, start again. You know, how did you find the runner that you'd lost? How did you kind of, I mean, I think you've spoken about it through your process of just getting out and doing 1 mile at a time. I guess what I'm asking really is what running meant to you, what drove you, what was at the core of it that you knew would bring you back to being a runner?
I was missing the people.
Yeah.
I mean, I am a real bling fanatic. I mean, I've got a 2-meter long curtain pole that I put up myself in my new kitchen, and it's just stuffed and rammed with medals. And they're not even all the medals, because Graham made me throw away any medal that wasn't a marathon or a very special half marathon. So, and I love a medal, but I suddenly realized that it wasn't just that, it was actually the people.
Yeah.
That I miss the opportunity to just connect with inspiring, incredible people that I would never meet in my everyday life. So that really drew me back. And then also, I really loved running in nature. I love trail running. I just love being out there because I've actually got no direction sense whatsoever. So to me, you know, I mean, I live now in the foothills of the South Downs. I would be out there hiking every weekend, but you know, they'd be sending out helicopters every weekend because I have no direction sense. So if I have a trail run where it's all marked out for you, there's marshals, you know, there's aid stations, there's cars that will take you to the finish if you get lost. I missed all of that as well, like being out in nature. So I think that's the 2 things that were very positive, powerful draws. And then also I just felt a bit guilty, you know, I'd neglected something that had brought so much joy to my life. And I just felt I wanted to be that person again, like that person who runs regularly, doesn't just talk about it, because goodness, I can talk enthusiastically about running, you know, till the cows come home. But it's actually, I wanted to be fitter and feel good in my body.
And so, I mean, it's only 4 years since Graham died, and then your sister and your dad were like, what, a couple of years later. So you know, it's a
anniversary.
How's it unraveling for you? Have you do you see yourself out to the other end of something, or is it just a process you're going through all the time?
Do you know, I think when Graham first died, I felt I was much further down the grief journey than most people would be. Because of the books I'd read, I actually did some training in grief counseling and things like that. So I kind of understood the grief models. I understood what happens when you grieve. I'd also been through this once with my mother because she was killed by a careless driver in Pretoria in 2007. So I knew that grief, you know, robs you of your memory. It changes your taste. So you just don't like things you've always loved. Like I've always been a massive tea drinker, and tea just tasted like milky dishwater to me. I had to go to coffee because I needed strong flavors. And even I didn't even enjoy wine anymore. I needed whiskey because I needed these strong, powerful flavors. So I did do a lot of research while Graham was ill. And then when he died, there were a lot of upsetting things that happened as well. Lost a lot of friends, lost a lot of relationships as a consequence of his illness and death. And then the other deaths as well, just kind of I reset my grief clock, if you know.
Yeah.
So at one point, I just felt like I'd been flayed. I just felt I had no skin left. Like, you know, a bus driver didn't smile at me. That could destroy my happiness for an entire day.
Yeah.
And I'm actually very lucky because I'm just a generally happy person.
Yeah.
That is, I'm so lucky. I can't imagine if I was prone to depression or things like that. But I'm naturally happy. And I just knew where to go. It's like I want to go back to the happy Lisa. And I actually said to someone once at sea swimming, I said, I wish you could have met the Lisa before because she was such a positive person. And she just turned to me and she said, you know what? And she's actually a psychologist. She said, you still are.
Yeah.
And that was I couldn't actually believe that someone could see through the grief and see the real me.
Yeah.
So, I have worked really hard at my happiness. I think happiness is a choice. When I find myself thinking very negative thoughts, like, well, I lost my soulmate, I'm going to die alone, I'm going to never meet someone else, etc. I just go, is that helpful? That's the question I ask from my hypnotherapy training. It's like, no, it's not helpful. It's actually dragging you down. It's probably going to ruin today. And I know how precious every single day is that I'm still being granted.
Yeah.
I just swerve myself away from that. And I say, stop that, go for a run, think something positive, look around the beautiful place you live now with a view of the sea. Go for a walk, phone a friend, leave a voice note for someone, listen to a voice note from someone, and I actively steer my mind to more positive things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it helps so much having running goals, because now I'm on a bit of a streak with parkrun. I did a PB at parkrun, not an all-time PB, but a Worthing parkrun PB last weekend.
Brilliant.
Not even trying. I've got my goal of 100 half marathons.
Yeah.
I want to travel to every country in the whole world, so I'm doing a lot of traveling next year. And I think goals pull you forward into the future.
Yeah.
I also started speed dating. I've gone on 70 speed dates now. I've had so much fun. Come home with the most unbelievable stories every time.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, actually, the things that have happened have been so interesting and bizarre is the only word I can describe them, that there's a chapter in my book that's only the start of my speed dating, let alone everything else that's happened since then.
Yeah.
And definitely, I feel there's a book or a podcast or something in me for that.
Definitely.
Because every time I share one of my crazy stories, someone out crazies me and tells me a worse one. And it's just, oh my God, that's so funny. So yeah, I feel, now that I've got my running back, that's my core identity.
Yes.
And now I'm kind of finding other things. I want to go and do things like you've done, swim, run, or I actually have got a secret goal, but I'm going to put it on hold for a while because it is like a full-time job, which is doing a half Ironman triathlon, because I haven't done a triathlon before.
Yeah.
I've even done an Olympic one. So, I think that's where I've just found my joy again. And I love, I'm at peace now with everything that's happened. I've got an acceptance. My favorite thing to say is, if I could cry. Sorry, let me start again. If I could cry Graham back to life, I would.
Yeah.
But I can't. And I just focus on, I had 35 years with an exceptional man in my life that I knew from the moment I met him. I just knew.
That's amazing. So many people don't know. And that's something that's quite lovely to hold on to.
Absolutely. So I'm very fortunate. I can't feel sorry for myself because I've got longer than most people get with their soulmate. So I'm just looking to the future now, but I'm moving forwards, not on.
Yeah.
So Graham, he's actually now, and I'm having a coughing fit, sorry.
All right, I'll let you know. I'm kind of really loving what you're saying. I think
got his ashes
around
my neck. So, in a little locket.
Yeah.
So I'm moving. I know he's protecting me. I know he's looking after me.
Yeah.
He's taught me, so many things, like not to rush into things, to view things from different perspectives, not have a knee-jerk reaction. So, I often just say, what would Graham do?
Yeah.
And then I follow that advice.
For anyone who's listening who's thinking of making a big change in their life, or is going through something like you've experienced through going through the process of grief, which forces you to reinvent. Like you said, you start tasting tea differently. You basically then lose the identity you had. But what sounds to me like you found the identity, the core identity of who you are again, just in different packaging. And it's so impressive. You cover what I know. You never can't quite the same. It's fascinating. For anyone just to hear what Lisa said, that within 4 years you've not only reframed everything, you've got through this horrendous time. You've moved to the sea. You're enjoying nature. It sounds like you live in the moment a lot, which I think running makes you do. And you've written a book, and you've continued to work as a clinical hypnotherapist. So I think this attitude to life and living is, for anybody who's thinking about making a change, this is the key thing. And I think running, I don't know if you agree, that running forces you into the moment.
Oh, it absolutely does. Oh, it does. My sister had a wonderful catchphrase. It was, life is short, running makes it feel longer.
Yeah.
And I was on the treadmill yesterday, and I only, in quote marks, did a 5K. Yeah. It was the longest. I haven't been on a treadmill in 15 years. It was the longest 45 minutes or however long it took me. I don't even know, because I broke it off halfway through, and then I nearly fell off it, because when I got back on, it went straight to the speed I was on before, and they were just squealing, and my tires, my shoes were squeaking and smoking and everything. It was just terrifying. I nearly injured myself. And I just realized, it does definitely, shuts off, because you shut off from the world.
Yeah.
And it gives you time to grieve. It gives you time to think about your priorities. It gives you time to tune in with your body. It's just such a magical thing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I ran this morning in the freezing rain, and I and it was
well done.
It was what you said there about it, being longer. I thought, this is such a short run, and it's nothing like really cold. And I did think, okay, this one I'm not enjoying as much, but I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to be in the moment. I'm going to enjoy being out in the rain, not sat in looking at it out, like out the window. Much better to be running in it, I think. So, you constantly, I think when you run, you constantly have to kind of get the positive. Okay, I've only got however long to go, or right, dig in, and yes, this is brilliant. And, because it is hard, as you said at the beginning, running is hard. It's, it's not an easy thing to do, to push yourself to run. So I think you find ways then to make it a positive experience.
Absolutely. And how I do it now is I do have a running buddy. So she comes out with me, and she hates running. So it's great. We've got a lot in common. So she makes me always feel like, I'm the most motivated runner ever, because she'll lie on the seawall with her arm across her forehead going, I can't go on. And then I'll go running over saying, oh my God, are you okay? And she go, no, I think it's actually, I didn't eat a banana before I came out. It's Grace. I said, you're a lazy bones. I said, get up. I'm going to take photos of you and put them on Facebook. She goes, I don't care. I don't do Facebook. So she's just brilliant. She tells me all these stories about these like naughty novels that she's writing and stuff like that. So we just laugh and talk and catch up on each other's lives, which is very important. When you lose a spouse, those little things you share about the annoying BT, mess up with your bill or whatever, all those tiny things, you've got no one to talk to about when you're low. So it's really been a sanity saver. And also I listen to a lot of podcasts now. So that is such good company, and I learn so much from hearing the greatest minds on earth talk to me while I'm running. So I think those things really help.
In terms of longevity, which is the buzzword of the moment, and it's kind of where we focus our program on, longevity. Movement is clearly key, and VO2 max is a key thing, which you do boost just by running, and also take out the physicality stuff. Community, people, connection are all massive if you want to live not just longer, but if you want to live right to your days and live, put life into, Angela Rippon said it, I don't think she was the first person to say it, but put life into your years, not years into your life, and that sounds to me you've done that all the way along. And
I did lead my life like it was an emergency. My husband used to say, Lisa, do we really have to go, on a weekend break this weekend, run a marathon the following weekend, go on a city break the next weekend, and go on holiday the week after? And I'd go, yes, we do. And he'd go, I haven't even got time to do the laundry in between. And, I'm so glad, because I was the motivator in that respect in our relationship. I mean, once he'd actually agreed to come on any trip, he was amazing. I mean, he, sort out the car hire, work out the distances we had to drive. He was brilliant. But it took a lot of he had a lot of inertia. So I was always the one pushing him. And then, we look back on our lives. Obviously, we had a few conversations just before he died. And he said, number one, I want to say, I forgive running. I know I put up a fight the whole time. I know I kept saying I didn't want to do it and how much I hated it. But actually, it brought an incredible amount of joy into our lives, because we traveled the world together, writing about, because he wrote as well, writing about and competing in marathons. And then he also just said, thank you for pushing me. And I just felt, I never thought when I was pushing him that he'd only have 58 years on this planet. But together we went to over 100 different countries, and he ran his 30 marathons and 2 comrades, which is 56 miles. So, and he wrote 2 travel books with me as well, which he didn't want to do while he was ill. So, I think he squeezed in an enormous amount into a very short life.
It must really change your perspective when you're, the person you're closest to, where you literally take stock and that life is over. And like, that phrase, life begins when you realise you only have one.
Yes.
From what I'm hearing, it's just like you've just totally made a horrible thing positive. And that's what I'm hearing loud and clear. And I hope other people learn from what you're saying. But, we never think about it, do we? We don't think about dying.
No, we don't like to think about it. We don't talk about it. But for some reason, I always had this urgency about my life. And my cousin said one of the most beautiful things to me years ago, before Graham even got ill. She said, Lisa, I don't want to sound morbid, but you know, if you were to die tomorrow, you have had the richest life, you know, of anyone I know. And I've never been a wealthy person, but I'm rich in experiences, you know. And I said, you're absolutely right. And, you know, now I talk about it all the time. I go, I don't have much time left on this earth. And everyone's going, why, are you sick? And I say, no, but I've got fewer years ahead of me than I have behind me.
Yeah.
Now I just do everything in my life according to the compass of excitement.
Yeah.
So it's, if someone suggests I do something, it's how do I feel about that? Do I feel excited, or am I doing it grudgingly as a favor, something I don't want to do? And I really now, I'm so authentic. I'm just honest with myself about the things I want to do and the things I don't want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's how I've changed the most, is things that no longer serve me, I just no longer do them.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I mean, that's a kind of razor sharp focus on being alive and living to the best.
Absolutely. Because you don't know, as they say, no tomorrow is guaranteed. So, you know, I could, half my friends have had cancer by now. Yeah. I could have cancer tomorrow, and then I can't go traveling. I can't do the things I want to do. So now anything, I mean, I thought, when will the Olympics be in our backyard again? And I thought, not for a very long time. Right. So I went to Paris, and I didn't actually get any tickets for formal events. I just went to watch the marathon. Yeah. Anything. If I see a show and I think I've always wanted to see The Lion King because I'm from South Africa, and you know the songs come from South Africa, and I just booked it. I said to my friend, if you book far in advance, you can get it for £35. Do you want to come? So now, and things that I want to buy for my house, I would have maybe saved up before really carefully, and now I just go, you need a second vacuum cleaner, buy one. Yeah. You know, my perspective has changed so much, and I just think anything I want in my life, and I'm not talking about material possessions, but even with material possessions, I will get more joy out of it for longer if I buy it now. So I'm not going on spending spree or anything, but I definitely think people waste so much of their lives. I mean, we do, with doom scrolling, watching absolute rubbish on television, you know, things like that. And I just think, gee, if you knew, if someone could tell you, do you know you've only got 6 months to live, or a year, or 10 years, or 20? And you even think about summers, like, how many summers do I have that I'm still well? You know, so I went hiking in the Himalayas. Absolutely hated every single lone moment of it. It's just sitting on a Stairmaster all day for 8 hours because I wasn't in a group, and I mean, a group would have far outstripped me anyway. It was freezing cold, bored out of my mind, but I just thought, at least I've done it at the age of 57, when I'm fit enough to try it, not spending my whole life thinking, when I was younger, I could have gone hiking in the Himalayas, and I decided, because I wasn't into sport, I can't be bothered. So now I try things, and sometimes you love what you try, and you think, I'm going to do more of it. And sometimes you go, I've done it now, like fire walking or whatever it is. You know, I've even done that. I've done it. I don't need to do it again. So, I think life has to be embraced. I love people who go on micro adventures, set themselves targets. You know, next year, whatever age they're turning, I want to do 60. You know, next year I'm turning 59. So 59 exciting things. And make a list, you know. And what happens? Some things are just simple, like watch a sunset and a sunrise on the same day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Weird things like swimming with dolphins or whatever, but actually we miss those little moments. And to be honest, with my husband, the thing I missed the most was, on a Saturday, we would sit in bed, and this is why I wasn't a park runner, and we drink tea in bed together for about an hour. And when he got sick, we started drinking tea every single day in bed for an hour. So he turned up at work later, made up the time at lunchtime, and we just created joy that didn't cost anything.
Yeah. That reminds me of that. There's a guy from the Oxford Longevity Project who's in his 90s, and he's a runner. And one of the things he said was that he and his wife, every morning, he'd go out bare feet into the walk on the grass first. Then he'd come in, make his wife a cup of tea, bring it up to her, and they'd sit in bed and have breakfast and chats. And I just thought, that's just perfect. And you don't need to be retired to do that. And I think, I'm guessing you were like this before. You were positive like this before. Everything's happened to you. But do you think it's taught you a lesson to really just embrace that side of you? Do you think it's made you more positive, or were you always like this?
No, I have to be honest. I've always been a positive person. And I've never been prone to depression. Yeah. But I wasn't always an authentic person.
Right.
So I really swallowed down a lot of my emotions. I was a people pleaser. I was always saying yes to everything. Like, I would never be able to say no to anything.
Yeah.
I gave my all to everything I did.
Yeah.
And through Graham's illness, I also learned that a lot of people that I thought would really be supportive were not at all. So I'm now, my Christmas card list is a lot shorter, let's put it that way, than it was before Graham became ill. But I feel so much safer with the friends that are still in my life and the relationships
You know what's real probably more than you do.
absolutely. No, I can see through it now completely. And something it's a lovely catchphrase. I borrowed it from someone else. I can't remember where, but it says, now when I see a red flag, I don't wait for the bunting.
Yeah. That's,
But in any situation or any new person, and that's why with dating as well, like I know I'm really safe in my dating because I just notice one thing and it's like, that is not going to be work. If that conflicts with my values, and I'm a very values driven person, like the main thing, if I had to say to someone, what sums me up is I'm a woman of my word. So if I say I'm going to run comrades, I'm going to run it. If I say I'm going to do 100 marathons, I'm going to. If I say I'm going to stay married till death us do part, I damn well did it.
yeah.
So I know what my values are, and if things in my life, even if they've, something I've taken with me for 30 years, 40 years in my life, if it no longer serves me, then I let it go. Because I just can't drag my entire past into my future with me if it's not stuff that makes me happy.
Yeah, and I think, your superpower, sort of like human superpower, is probably running, actually, isn't it? It's kind of kept you moving.
Absolutely. And it teaches you so many lessons. I mean, the kind of mindset that I had to develop for comrades got me through 4 years of hell of fighting medical professionals. And I'm terrified of medical professionals. I was brought up in South Africa. We really worship authority. So for me to stand up to some of the most eminent medical professionals in the world and tell them where they were failing my husband, that was not something I ever envisaged myself to do. But it's that pushing forward, mindset and doing things you never thought were possible. I mean, I didn't think I could run 2 marathons plus a 5K all in one day, but I did it. So I knew that, staying positive for 4 years, well, I didn't know how long it would be, but I knew that once I put my mind to something, then it happens.
And you had the evidence, didn't you, from doing like the physical things of endurance teaches you a lot. I agree with that. And the other thing you said, and I will let you go soon because I know we've been chatting, but I could chat to you all day. But, you're talking about just doing things, buying 2 vacuum cleaners if you want to. That's a growth mindset, I believe. And I think that, it's very easy to limit yourself. Like, I know we're both writers. We're not millionaires. But you're rich in other ways. And I just think that's something that's really important. People might be hearing, yeah, it's all right for her. She can do this, that, and the other. But it doesn't make any difference, does it? How much money you have, or, I mean, you've kind of, in some people could say you've lost everything, but you're not sounding like that at all.
No, I once dated someone and I asked him what the most important thing was in his life, and he said money. And at that very moment, I realized there is no future in this relationship because that just isn't my main priority. So, my main priority is happiness. It's spreading happiness. I think you can't be happy unless you make other people happy. And I really try and do that wherever I go. I'm courteous to people. I smile. If someone gives me good service in a restaurant, I hate it because it's like, God, now I've got to go home and do my homework and leave them a fantastic TripAdvisor review. And my life is incredibly rich. I mean, I spent all my years, I've had a very average salary, but we were very big savers, Graham and I. So, he cut his own hair for 20 years, and as his mother said, it shows. He would never catch a bus if he could walk. I didn't buy a lot of clothes. I never went to restaurants, all that kind of thing. But the experiences we've had, going to 100 countries together, sleeping in youth hostels, on train station platforms in India, I've done it all on the cheap, but it's been more fun. Like now, if I think, well, I'm spending 2 people's money, so I can't afford a fancy hotel. I go there and I feel so lonely, and I just think, I wish I hadn't done this. I should have booked into a youth hostel because I'd be talking to 20-year-olds and having a lot more fun. So I don't think you need money to be happy. I genuinely don't. Of course, look, it stops you worrying because, because I've saved so hard throughout my life, and Graham did as well. I mean, we saved just a huge percentage of it. That's the first thing I ever did was save. Every month was just money goes out into my savings nonstop. Every single month. Ever since I got a paycheck, I've done that. I don't have to worry about turning the heating on. I don't have to worry about, affording a tin of baked beans. I don't have to worry anymore. So that has taken a lot of worry out of my life. But I can't say having 2 people's money rather than one makes me happier. Like you can only, like when you go to India, if you're staying in a youth hostel, you're staying in a 5-star hotel, the Taj Mahal is still the Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
So I genuinely have done things on the cheap. I've got loads of ways that I save money all the time.
Yeah.
Never took taxis, things like that. Made the most. And that's why I looked around me. I thought, I know a lot of people on higher salaries than me.
Yeah, who aren't
They're not doing nearly as much as what I'm doing. But I put my mind to it and I set myself goals. One of the goals was not spending a single day of holiday or bank holidays in the UK.
Yeah.
So that happened this is before the climate emergency, by the way.
Yeah.
It's away 13, 14 times a year. I save money in every other way.
Well, I just think you're just showing what's possible. It's amazing. And I'm going to show, because we're doing a video and it's on YouTube, I just want to show people, if you're back to fun. Here's the book, and it is brilliant. Still running after all these tears. And it's out in January, isn't it? January 25th.
That's right. It's out on the 8th of January. It's already available for pre-order on Amazon. And the official launch is at the National Running Show on the 31st of January and the 1st of February. And we're going to have people in blow-up flamingo suits wandering around. Anyone who dresses as a flamingo qualifies to maybe get 20 free copies of the book. There will be dairy milk handed out as well. So look for me on the Flanchy stands, because Flanchy is an activewear company and I'm the ambassador, and they've designed a special flamingo and crow themed print in my honor. So I'll be there all weekend.
That's so impressive, Lisa. I really, really enjoyed talking to you. And I think, just to point out as well, this isn't just for runners, because your story goes for all the reinventors or people thinking they want to make a change. This is the tone they need to learn some lessons and make their change. And just, I feel inspired having had our conversations. I hope everyone else will too. I really appreciate it. And thank you for your time. I'll make sure we get a link to the book when we share this post.
Thank you so much, Fiona. It was so lovely meeting you again.